Silent Hill has always been more than just a horror series. It's a place layered with symbolism, hidden developer details, and forgotten trivia buried in the fog. Tonight, we'll go through 100 obscure facts about Silent Hill, details that even longtime fans may have missed. Let's begin. The dog ending almost didn't exist. One of the most famous endings in Silent Hill 2 is the dog ending, where James discovers a Shiba Inu was behind everything. But the joke was nearly cut from the game. Developers revealed in interviews that it started as a casual gag among staff, never intended to be made. Yet, its popularity during internal testing convinced the team to leave it in. What's most obscure is that the dog in the ending is actually modeled after a developer's own pet. Fans joke that this makes the dog canonically part of Silent Hill's creator team. The Air Screamers' origins. The Air Screamers, the winged enemies in Silent Hill 1, were actually designed from sketches of bats and pterodactyls. But the development notes show that Team Silent also wanted them to evoke a crying infant, with their shrill calls layered from distorted baby sounds. This detail was later confirmed in a Japanese design book, though it's rarely discussed in English fandom circles. Silent Hill 2's fog trick. The famous thick fog in Silent Hill 2 was partly a technical solution. The PS2 couldn't render the entire town at once without dropping performance, so fog was used to hide draw distance limitations. But Team Silent leaned into the limitation and turned it into an atmosphere-building feature. Ironically, the hardware struggle gave Silent Hill its most iconic aesthetic. Heather's real-world name origin. In Silent Hill 3, the protagonist Heather Mason was almost named Helen. Early drafts of the script used this placeholder, but developers changed it because they wanted something softer, more youthful. Heather was chosen because it felt both natural and symbolic. Heather is a plant that thrives in harsh conditions, reflecting Heather Mason's resilience in a world designed to break her. Pyramid Head's real inspiration. While many assume Pyramid Head was directly based on medieval executioners, Team Silent has confirmed that his design also came from Francis Bacon's paintings, especially two figures. The distorted, faceless forms in Bacon's work influenced Pyramid Head's unsettling proportions. His giant triangular helmet was meant to represent both a burden and a tool of punishment, tying into James Sunderland's guilt. The result is a creature that feels symbolic as much as it is terrifying. Unused UFO ending files. The Silent Hill series is known for its joke UFO endings, but fans discovered unused files in the first game, suggesting that Team Silent had planned for multiple alien models. The final UFO cutscene uses a single, generic alien, but data-mined assets show variations with different head sizes and suits. These designs never appeared in-game, raising questions about how large the original gag ending was supposed to be. The school's horror connection. The Midwich Elementary School in Silent Hill 1 wasn't just inspired by American schools. Its hallways and layout strongly resemble those in the film Kindergarten Cop, 1990. Team Silent used reference photos from that movie because they wanted an authentic American school design. The twist? This innocent reference point was warped into one of the most terrifying levels in survival horror. Laura's unique immunity. In Silent Hill 2, Laura is the only character who isn't attacked by monsters. Developers explain this by stating she is pure, free of guilt or trauma, but data from the game reveals something fascinating. Monsters don't even have AI triggers coded for her. To the game's code, Laura is invisible, reinforcing the lore idea that she is untouched by the darkness of Silent Hill. Silent Hill 4's ghosts were originally different. The terrifying ghosts in Silent Hill 4. The room were originally designed to be fully interactive enemies. Early builds show them walking with normal animations and attacking in more complex ways. But Team Silent decided they were too difficult to balance, so the final design made them invincible, floating specters instead. This change accidentally made them scarier. Players couldn't fight back, only endure. James' original character concept. In early development of Silent Hill 2, James Sunderland wasn't James at all. Concept art shows him as an older, rugged man with a military look. The team later reworked him into an ordinary, almost unremarkable figure. This was deliberate. They wanted players to feel like James could be anyone, a blank slate hiding dark secrets. His everyman appearance makes the later revelations about his past hit much harder. Silent Hill's use of real sound samples. One reason the games feel so unsettling is Akira Yamaoka's sound design. He used real industrial and mechanical samples, things like subway brakes screeching, metal dragging across concrete, and even slowed down pig squeals, to create the monster sound effects. In interviews, Yamaoka explained that he wanted the sounds to feel familiar but wrong, making players uneasy without realizing why. Shattered Memories Psychological Test. Silent Hill. Shattered Memories opens with a psychological profile test. What most players didn't realize is that the answers actively shape the game's world, not just dialogue, but monster designs, clothing, and even level details. For example, answering with more open, sexual choices would make the monsters more suggestive in design. This mechanic blurred the line between player and character, making each playthrough unique. Angela's fire in SH2. Angela's encounters in Silent Hill 2 are some of the most haunting, and her final scene shows her walking into a staircase engulfed in flames. While the fire seems supernatural, it wasn't random. Team Silent confirmed it was meant to represent Angela's view of the world. Everything consumed by fire, a symbol of her personal trauma. This is why James sees it as she does. Silent Hill bends reality to reflect trauma. The origin of the radio static. The crackling radio static in Silent Hill 1, warning players of nearby monsters, wasn't in the game's earliest builds. It was added later because playtesters felt overwhelmed when enemies attacked without warning. What's fascinating is that this mechanic, born as a balancing fix, became one of the series' most iconic features, blending gameplay and atmosphere seamlessly. How SH2 decides your ending. Silent Hill 2 doesn't just give you endings based on big choices. It quietly tracks how you play. The game monitors dozens of tiny behaviors and uses them to decide whether you get leave, in water, Maria, or rebirth. Examples: frequently checking your health but keeping it low nudges you toward in water. Staring at the knife in your inventory or examining Mary's letter often also pulls you that way. Spending time near Maria, protecting her, and visiting her at the hospital pushes Maria. Doing optional steps like collecting the 4 special items and using the boat row trick unlocks rebirth in later releases. The point is, SH2 reads your mindset through play. Cling to life and distance yourself from death, and you're more likely to leave. Hover around reminders of guilt and pain, and the game assumes James is spiraling. It's one of the earliest horror games where normal habits like menu checks and who you stand next to shape the ending as much as story flags. PT's ghost on your back trick. In PT, Lisa isn't just popping in for jump scares. She literally attaches behind the player's camera during certain loops. Data miners and camera hacks showed that when footsteps echo or the shadow looks off, Lisa is riding the player's shoulder just out of view. That's why you hear breathing close to your ear and see weird shadow shapes that don't match your model. The design sells the idea that you're never alone, even when the hall looks empty. It also explains the infamous baby laugh steps and mic moments. Small triggers stack a hidden counter while Lisa stalks you. Then the radio/phone beat locks in. PT being a playable teaser for a cancelled Silent Hills project means these tricks are all we'll ever officially experience from that team up. But the techniques shaped how later indie horror games handle proximity audio, invisible pursuers, and looping spaces. It's a masterclass in making players feel hunted without showing the hunter. Mark of Samael wasn't Samael. In Silent Hill 1, fans called the symbol appearing around town the Mark of Samael. Later material clarified that this was a misunderstanding in-universe. What we're actually seeing is tied to the seal of Metatron and other ritual icons, not a literal stamp from Samael. The mislabel stuck because characters in SH1 used the wrong term, and early guidebooks repeated it. Silent Hill 3 pokes at this confusion by reusing the symbol in different contexts and pointing at Metatron as a protective be neutral force depending on usage. In short, the cult's iconography is messy on purpose. The same shape can be drawn with different intent, protection, control, or channeling power. So fans who treat the Mark of Samael like a single, fixed evil sign are missing the series' bigger point. Silent Hill symbols reflect who's using them and why. That's why the same geometry can seal, summon, or mislead across different games and endings. SH4's apartment hauntings change your ending. In Silent Hill 4, the room, the apartment is basically a second character. Midway through the game, it starts filling with hauntings. Bleeding walls, ghostly photos, haunted toys, and more. These aren't just spooky effects. Leave them unchecked, and they hurt you over time, and they also influence your ending. You can cleanse many of them with holy candles or saint medallions, but if you ignore the apartment for too long, your maximum health and safety drop. Meanwhile, Eileen's condition matters. The more damage she takes, and the more you let hauntings persist, the worse her state becomes. In the final area, her walking speed toward the machine signals how close you are to bad outcomes. Manage hauntings well, protect Eileen, and you open the door to better endings. Neglect them, and you're nudged toward bad or worst outcomes. It's one of the first times a horror game turned your home base into a slow burn, score-like system affecting finale quality. Saving Sybil with red medicine, a big secret in Silent Hill 1. Sybil doesn't have to die in the carousel fight. Players can save her using a red liquid known as aglaophotis, found by triggering the Kaufman side quest. If you bring the glass bottle to the motel, recover the vial, and hold onto it, you can splash Sybil during the boss possession and free her. This changes dialogue later and slightly shifts the tone of Harry's journey. The deeper detail. Aglaophotis isn't a random name. It's a reference to real-world occult lore. The term shows up in older texts and was borrowed by the game to sell the cult's ritual vibe. Silent Hill reuses the concept in later entries in different forms, sometimes as a powder or tablet, so veteran players watch for any red antidote-like item when possession themes show up. Saving Sybil is one of the most satisfying payoffs for doing optional exploration in the original game. The Red Devil Easter egg in SH1. In Silent Hill 1, there's an unused texture buried in the files that fans call the Red Devil. It's a crude drawing of a horned figure with glowing eyes, never seen in normal gameplay. Some believe it was a developer in-joke, while others think it was an early concept for the cult's deity. It was never explained by Team Silent, making it one of the strangest early leftovers in the series code. Akira Yamaoka's role expanded over time. Akira Yamaoka wasn't originally hired as the composer for Silent Hill 1. He came on as a sound designer, but when the original composer left, Yamaoka stepped up. His unique blend of industrial noise and haunting melodies defined the entire series. Without that chance shift, Silent Hill's soundscape might have been completely different. Eileen's injuries are permanent in SH4. In Silent Hill 4, The Room, Eileen Galvin takes damage throughout the game, and her condition directly affects the ending. What's obscure is that her injuries cannot be fully healed. Items can slow the damage, but scars remain. Developers designed her this way to make the player feel constant responsibility, amplifying the sense of dread as she stumbles closer to the final battle. Silent Hill 3's Mirror Room almost got cut. One of the most famous moments in Silent Hill 3 is the Mirror Room, where Heather's reflection becomes corrupted. According to interviews, the sequence was nearly cut because it didn't involve combat or puzzles. But developers fought to keep it in, knowing the unease of watching Heather's reflection rot in silence would become one of the game's most unforgettable scares. Unused boss in SH2's files. Data miners found unused assets in Silent Hill 2 for a boss fight that never appears. The files suggest an enemy that shared animations with the flesh lips, but scaled much larger, possibly intended for a unique arena battle. Why it was scrapped remains unknown, but the leftover data adds to SH2's aura of mystery, proof that even unused nightmares linger in the code. Mary's letter quietly disappears. SH2. One of Silent Hill 2's smartest details is so subtle many players miss it. Mary's letter fades away. Early on, the letter looks readable in your inventory. As the story pushes James to accept what really happened, the texture becomes blurrier, then turns into a blank sheet. The description text also shifts, dropping certainty and leaning into doubt. It's not a cutscene telling you the truth, it's your menu doing it. The item you've clung to as proof slowly stops backing you up. This ties into how SH2 judges your behavior for endings. Hovering on items tied to guilt, like the knife or letter, nudges certain outcomes. The fading letter is perfect. SH2 design, small, quiet, and aligned with theme. On a first playthrough, most players assume it's always been unreadable. On replays, you notice the timing lines up with James's unraveling. It's environmental storytelling hidden in plain sight, inside the UI, showing how the game treats inventory as part of the narrative, not just storage. The graveyard that spoils the plot. SH2. In the prison graveyard area of Silent Hill 2, there's a row of open graves already dug with nameplates. 3 of the names are James, Angela, and Eddie. The scene plays so fast that many players just keep moving, but it's a quiet spoiler. The town has already prepared their fates. The graves also underline a core idea in SH2. Each character is already carrying their own ending when they arrive. James is literally standing over a hole with his name on it before his biggest confessions. Angela's grave sits there like a final stop on a road she's been on for years. Eddie's is a blunt sign that denial can't outrun consequence. It's not a boss arena or a puzzle. It's a mood piece that foreshadows everything without a line of dialogue. The town doesn't threaten them with monsters here. It just shows the holes and weights. Players who notice it on a first run feel a strange chill. On a second run, it lands harder. This was always where the story was heading. SH3's Magical Girl mode isn't just a costume. Silent Hill 3 hides one of the series' funniest twists. Heather's Magical Girl outfit isn't only cosmetic. Equip the right costume and Heather can fire the sexy beam / Heather beam, a sparkly ranged attack that wipes enemies with over-the-top visual effects. It started as a staff gag but shipped as a real unlock, complete with unique animations and sound cues. The joke works because it clashes with SH3's heavy themes while still feeling oddly right for Heather's personality, tough, sarcastic, and willing to take any edge she can get. The beam also changes combat pacing, letting skilled players route sections in goofy, speedrun-friendly ways. On top of that, SH3 includes a bunch of password-based costumes tied to magazines, promo sites, and region quirks, an old-school approach to secrets that rewarded fans paying attention outside the game. It's a reminder that Team Silent mixed bleak storytelling with playful extras, and those extras sometimes reframe the horror by letting you stomp nightmares in glitter and light for a few minutes before the next disturbing hallway. The rebirth ending is a hidden ritual. Beyond Leave in Water and Maria, Silent Hill 2 hides a fourth route, Rebirth. It isn't tied to your minute-to-minute behavior. Instead, you collect 4 ritual items across the game and then trigger the ending on a subsequent run. The items are tied to occult texts and relics, like the Book of Crimson Ceremony and White Chrism, hinting at a resurrection rite. The final scene suggests James plans to bring Mary back by returning to the lake with those artifacts, an ending that opens the door to darker interpretations of his denial. Mechanically, it's one of the earliest examples of a prestige-style new game plus payoff in a horror game. Not just harder enemies or a bonus weapon, but an entirely different conclusion that recontextualizes James. It also set a template for secret finales in later entries, and inspired other horror titles to hide major narrative branches behind collectible-driven runs rather than straightforward dialogue choices. Silent Hill's street names are horror Easter eggs. Walk the streets in Silent Hill 2 and look at the signs. Many roads are named after real horror authors. Fans point out nods to Richard Matheson, Dean Koontz, and Stephen King's pseudonym Richard Bachman. These aren't random labels. They're a quiet thank you to the genre's foundations, and a signal for what kind of storytelling SH2 is chasing. Psychological dread and moral knots rather than just monsters jumping out of alleys. The references also help sell the town as a real place with a literary culture, not just a game map. It's a tiny detail most players blow past while running from enemies, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. The map becomes a bookshelf. Pair that with other subtle references like paintings, plaque text, and museum descriptions, and Silent Hill feels curated, built by people who read the same stories that shape the series' tone. It's world building through street signs, and it works. Origins alternate opening. Silent Hill Origins almost started with a completely different sequence. Early concept notes show Travis finding a car crash victim rather than Alessa at the fire. Developers later shifted it back to Alessa to tie Origins directly into SH1's story. The scrapped idea would have made Travis's entry into Silent Hill less supernatural and more grounded, but it risked disconnecting the game from the larger mythos. The creepy mannequin detail. Mannequins in Silent Hill 2 look like legless torsos, a strange enough design on its own. What's obscure is that the sound they make when first attacked is sampled from Angela's voice actor. The monster's ties to sexuality, abuse, and Angela's trauma are reflected directly in their audio. It's one of the clearest examples of how Team Silent bakes symbolic meaning into both visuals and sound design. PT's real estate inspiration. While PT is famously a hallway loop, the layout isn't random. It's modeled after a typical Japanese one-room mansion apartment, stretched into a Western-style suburban home. Kojima's team wanted players to feel trapped in a familiar domestic space. This contrast, everyday architecture becoming a nightmare, was part of what made the teaser so unsettling. SH3's unused Ghost NPC. Data miners found evidence of an unused ghostly character in Silent Hill 3. The texture resembles a shadowy woman with no face, possibly tied to Heather's otherworld sequences. While never implemented, it suggests Team Silent considered adding a non-combatant spectral figure similar to SH4's ghosts years earlier. The drowning ending foreshadowing. In SH2's In Water Ending, James drives into the lake. What most players miss is that the game foreshadows this choice visually. The Toluca Lake background art in some save screens includes rippling water overlays, a rare animated menu element. It's subtle, but it sets a tone for players leaning toward the darker resolution. Born from a Wish was a late add SH2. The Maria side story, Born from a Wish, didn't exist in the original PS2 release in some regions. It was added later, included with the Xbox/Director's Cut builds. The team created it to give Maria her own arc, and to answer a fan-facing question: what is Maria beyond James's viewpoint? The scenario's mansion setting, Ernest Baldwin, and the quiet letters emphasize a different tone, more confession than chase. Small touches reinforce that Maria is assembled out of desire and grief. The way she repeats phrases, the way rooms feel staged for a conversation she can't finish. It also seeds imagery that feeds back into the main game: mirrors, stairwells, and a lingering sense of being made for someone else. For many players, Born from a Wish reframes Maria not as a plot twist, but as a person who knows she's a stand-in, trying to hold on anyway. The halo of the sun isn't just a save icon, SH3. In Silent Hill 3, the halo of the sun shows up at save points, but it isn't a generic logo. It's a cult emblem with layered meanings that shift by context, protection, judgment, and channeling power. The series plays with that ambiguity on purpose. Heather uses it safely to mark progress, yet the same mark appears in places tied to the Order's rituals. That mixed usage is part of Silent Hill's trick. Symbols don't have a single fixed meaning. The seal of Metatron and the halo of the sun often get conflated in fan talk, but SH3 deliberately lets them blur, sometimes a ward, sometimes a key, sometimes a threat. Seeing it under your feet at a save spot is a tiny joke from Team Silent. You're stepping into a ritual circle every time you hit save, trusting it will protect your run. The Great Knife changes how you move, SH2. Pyramid Head's Great Knife isn't just a trophy weapon. When James picks it up, the game quietly shifts your movement model. Walk speed drops, turn speed drags, and stamina feels like it's being chewed up. Attacks are devastating but slow, with long recovery that can get you punished in tight spaces. Even the swing arcs matter, clearing low enemies versus risking whiffs in hallways. The sound design sells the weight. Every drag and lift is a reminder that James is carrying something he probably shouldn't. Many players grab it for the spectacle, then stash it because it turns exploration into a slog. That friction is thematic. Power in Silent Hill comes with a cost, and the knife literally burdens you while inviting you to use it anyway. Mannequins were built from just legs. The mannequin enemies in Silent Hill 2 look simple, two lower halves fused together, but the design came from a creepy, practical idea. Legs are the part people notice first in storefront mannequins. Masahiro Ito leaned into that fixation and stripped away everything else. The result is an enemy that reads instantly. You recognize the shape, but feels wrong. It moves like something with joints in the wrong places. Their first appearance in the apartments near Maria ties them to themes of desire and objectification without any lecture, just placement and motion. Audio completes the effect. Close, breathy textures and muffled thuds make them feel like props that woke up. Few monsters in the series feel so low-tech on paper, yet so unsettling in practice. SH3 kills you in the intro on purpose. Silent Hill 3 opens at the lakeside amusement park with monsters already swarming. You can swing, run, even score hits, but the scene is built to end with Heather's death. It's a scripted loss that snaps into the waking up in the diner moment, telling you the game's rules before you even know them. This world decides outcomes, not you. The roller coaster sequence hammers it home, tracks above, alarms blaring, movement you can't fully control. Players often try to win the opener on replays, only to learn it's there to teach tone, not grant victory. Later, when you return to the park for real, all the set dressing makes new sense. The dream wasn't random, it was a map you'd have to face awake. Silent Hill loves to foreshadow like this. Show the ending first, then dare you to walk back into it. Abstract Daddy was built like a bed. Masahiro Ito has said the abstract Daddy was designed around the shape of a bed frame, metal bars, pressed fabric, and a trapped form, so the monster reads as a warped piece of furniture as much as a creature. That's why its silhouette looks boxed in, and why its movements feel like something pushing up from under a mattress. The design ties directly to Angela's story without spelling it out. You meet it in a cramped room that looks more like a private nightmare than a boss arena. Nothing in the UI tells you what it is. The space and the model do the talking. It's a good example of how SH2 turns environment, animation, and object shapes into storytelling, so the horror lands even if you skip every optional memo. How to trigger SH1's UFO ending for real. The UFO ending in Silent Hill, one isn't just a joke cutscene, it's a proper route you have to set up. You need to be on Next Sphere, New Game Plus, and pick up the channeling stone from the convenience store. Use it at several specific spots: school roof, hospital roof, the motel parking area, etc. before finishing the run. Do it correctly, and the aliens show up to wrap the story. The ending reappears as a tradition throughout the series, but SH1's setup is the most involved. Less of a random gag, more of a secret quest that teaches you Silent Hill's tone. Deadly serious stories, with room for weird, fourth wall humor if you dig deep enough. SH2's puzzles change by difficulty, not just numbers. In Silent Hill 2, setting riddle difficulty to easy, normal, hard doesn't only change a code, it often swaps the entire riddle text. The coin puzzle, the box/hair puzzle, the book/library hints, and more get new poems or clues that point to different logic. That's why guides sometimes don't match your game. The wording you read might be for another riddle tier. It's a small design choice with a big effect. Repeat playthroughs stay fresh, and you feel like the town is shifting its rules each time you return. Robbie the rabbit, she moves. That's the point. Robbie the rabbit, the pink mascot you see in Silent Hill 3 and later games, almost never animates in front of you. He just sits and rides, leans on rails, or stares with a blank, blood-smeared mouth in promo art. The stillness is intentional. Team Silent understood that a mascot that refuses to react can feel creepier than a chasing enemy. Over time, Robbie became a series mascot for the fan base. Merch, cameos, and posters. Yet in the games he's mostly set dressing, reminding you that cheerful branding doesn't make the park safe. The horror is in how normal he acts while everything else collapses. Silent Hill's author street names start in SH1. Fans notice Silent Hill 2's Ryder Roads, but the tradition begins in SH1. Bachman Road nods to Stephen King's pen name Richard Bachman. You'll also find Elroy, James Elroy, and Levin, Ira Levin. These aren't random picks. They set the series vibe right away. Crime, paranoia, domestic fear, and moral rot. When SH2 continues the idea with more names, it feels like the town itself was built on a library of horror and noir. It's subtle world building, a map that quietly tells you which kinds of stories shape the place you're about to get lost in. The labyrinth map that rotates itself. In Silent Hill 2, the underground labyrinth doesn't just confuse you with ladders and dead ends. James's map actually rotates as you explore. Each descent shifts the orientation 90 degrees, so what looked like north suddenly becomes west. It's an old school trick to scramble your sense of direction without cheap teleports. Players who compare screenshots notice the hand-drawn hallways twist between visits, as if James can't keep the layout straight in his head. The effect is subtle, but it sells the theme that spaces in Silent Hill bend to the mind of the person walking through them. Even speedrunners who know the route still feel the mental slide the first time they realize the map isn't lying. It's recording James's changing perspective. SH3's hospital is a memory echo of SH2. Silent Hill 3's Brookhaven Hospital feels different, but if you overlay floor plans with SH2's version, you'll catch reused geometry and mirrored room placement. Team, Silent didn't copy-paste lazily. They leaned into the idea that Silent Hill reuses real locations as memory echoes. When Heather hits the other world, the overlap becomes a design statement. Same bones, new nightmare. It's why longtime players get deja vu in certain corridors or nurse stations. The hall widths, door spacing, and corner turns line up just enough to trigger memory. The team treated level design like recurring dreams. Layouts repeat, details mutate, meaning changes. Nowhere is built from pieces of everywhere SH1. The endgame area in Silent Hill 1, Nowhere, is literally a collage of places you've already visited. Dev tools show it was assembled from chunks of the school, hospital, and civic buildings, then stitched together with new transitions. That's why room names, keys, and puzzles feel familiar but wrong. It's the town remixing spaces from Harry's journey into a single personal nightmare. The design lines up with the story twist. This isn't a separate location so much as a mental construct. You're walking through a scrapbook of trauma where doors connect rooms that should be miles apart. Frank Sunderland's quiet link. In Silent Hill 4, the apartment superintendent is Frank Sunderland, a surname SH2 fans recognize. He even mentions his son who went fishing on Toluca Lake and had a hard time, a soft nod toward James Sunderland without spelling it out. It's one of the series' cleanest cross-game ties. Not a cameo, not a retcon, just a throwaway line that says these stories share a world. SH4 uses that connection to color the mood of South Ashfield. Ordinary hallways that back up against Silent Hill's history, like the town's shadows stretch farther than its borders. SH2's cemetery introduction is scripted subtlety. At the very start of Silent Hill 2, James meets Angela in a cemetery. What's easy to miss is that the graveyard already has freshly dug graves, foreshadowing not only Angela's path but James's own. The encounter also sets tone quietly. Angela is evasive, disoriented, and almost a mirror of James himself. Instead of a tutorial fight, the game's tutorial is a conversation in a graveyard, showing that this story won't be about monsters first, but about broken people walking into the fog. SH2 quietly sets up SH4, Walter, Wish House, Toluca. Inside the Silent Hill Historical Society in SH2, you can read clippings about Walter Sullivan, the Wish House orphanage, and disappearances tied to the Forest and Toluca prison. At the time, most players treated these as background flavor. Later, Silent Hill 4, the room revealed they were foreshadowing. Walter becomes the central figure. Wish House and the cult's indoctrination matter, and Toluca connects the prison mythology across games. Team Silent used the museum as a lore warehouse, quietly laying track for the next entry without any "look at this" signposting. It's part of why SH2's world feels bigger than James's story. You're walking past headlines for another nightmare you won't fully face until the sequel. That subtle cross-game setup also explains why fans still comb the Historical Society. It proved that even throwaway plaques can be roadmaps. Shattered memories let you call real phone numbers. Silent Hill. Shattered memories fills Harry's phone with contacts and numbers scattered across posters, doors, and ads. Many of those numbers actually work in-game. When you dial them, you get recorded voicemails, automated services, or creepy customer support lines that deepen the town's backstory. Some calls are practical, clues for locks or business addresses. Others are pure atmosphere, lost and found lines with unsettling messages. The trick sells the idea that Silent Hill is a closed system. Even when you reach someone, you never escape the town's echo chamber. Paired with the psychological profile that reshapes visuals and enemies, the phone turns exploration into a modern scavenger hunt, less about inventory keys and more about information you pull from the environment, one voicemail at a time. SH3's subway and the "you really can get hit" moment. In Silent Hill 3, the subway sequence looks like a standard corridor run until you learn the tracks aren't just decoration. If you drop down in the wrong spot or linger too long, the train will actually hit you, complete with a brutal cutaway. It's an uncommon gotcha because the series usually punishes you through monsters, not set-piece timing. The moment works as a tone check. Silent Hill will kill you in ways that feel mundane, a train, a fall, right alongside the occult dangers. Players who've been sprinting through early areas often slow down after this, reading signs and watching for environmental tells. The subway gently teaches the rule that nothing in SH3's world is harmless just because it's ordinary. SH2's hidden gear, chainsaw and hyperspray colors. Silent Hill 2 hides a chainsaw near the starting forest path on repeat playthroughs. You'll hear a distant rev, grab it, and you get a high damage, high commitment weapon that changes how you route early fights. Even more curious is the hyperspray, a new game plus reward whose color changes based on your final rank. Green, blue, purple, or red, the best. Each color tweaks power and effects like stun, poison-like behavior, turning a novelty item into a mini score attack badge. These extras are a peek at Team Silent's design philosophy. Reward multiple runs with toys that don't break the mood but let veterans style their replays. It's also why speedrunners and challenge players keep coming back. Route planning with chainsaw/hyperspray turns the same streets into a different game. The Gray Child was changed for Western releases. In the original Silent Hill 1 Japanese build, the small, childlike enemies in the school are the Gray Children, short humanoids with knives and a disturbing, shuffling attack. For Western releases, ratings concerns led to a swap. Many versions replace them with a taller creature commonly called the Mumbler. The school still uses childlike silhouettes in some cut assets, but the in-game enemy is altered. The change is subtle if you haven't seen both versions. yet it shifts the tone of Midwich Elementary a lot. With gray children, the school feels like a direct nightmare of innocence turned violent. With mumblers, it reads more like generic monsters in a school. It's one of the earliest examples of Silent Hill changing content per region, and it's why screenshots and enemy names sometimes don't match across guides. Why fans still debate the HD collection SH2/SH3. The Silent Hill HD collection looked like a simple upgrade, but it changed more than resolution. The port rebuilt fog and lighting with different tech, which accidentally revealed distant geometry the original fog was hiding. That hurt mood and depth cues. Streets looked empty instead of swallowed by mist. Some audio was swapped or re-recorded, notably voice tracks, and a few timing-based scares drifted because frame pacing and particle behavior differed. Konami later added a classic voices toggle on PS3, but it didn't fix the core rendering changes. The result is two valid but very different reads of the same scenes. The originals lean on heavy fog and crunchy ambience to keep the town claustrophobic. The HD builds feel clearer but less oppressive. For newcomers, the collection is convenient. For longtime fans, those tiny technical differences change how dread lands, especially in SH2, where distance and sound design quietly push you towards certain emotions and endings. Why Silent Hill's nurses look the way they do. The nurse design isn't just spooky hospital staff. In SH2, their look ties directly to James's mindset, medical guilt, sexual confusion, and fear, so the costume, posture, and jerky animation reflect his personal mess more than any one villain. The face coverings keep them unreadable, which is cheaper to render but also scarier. You can't make eye contact, so you project your own fears onto them. In SH3, the nurses return, but they shift to fit Heather's world. Still unnerving, but framed less as James' private symbol, and more as the Order's twisted space. The audio sells it. Wet shoe squeaks, clipped heels, and that choking cough loop that feels half human, half machine. Small placement choices do a lot of work. Long hallways, bright doors at the far end, and tight corners that force you to brush past them. They're memorable not because they chase fast, but because the games trap you in everyday hospital shapes that suddenly feel wrong. The hair in the box puzzle and why it works. The hospital box puzzle stacks multiple locks and asks you to open a small case that's empty until you realize you need hair to reach a key down a drain. It's a strange, low-tech answer in a world of monsters. Players remember it because the solution feels gross and personal. You braid hair with a hook to fish the key, then unlock an item that pushes the story forward. The riddle texts change with riddle difficulty, but the punchline is the same. Your brain jumps between poetry, numbers, and then this tactile, oh, of course, moment. SH2 rarely shouts its symbolism, yet this puzzle still fit the theme, pulling something important out of a dark, unreachable place using a piece of a human body. Its quiet body, horror turned into a logic problem, and it lands without cutscenes or lore dumps, just the player, a drain, and a memory you won't forget on your second run. SH4's red handprints are a counter you can miss. In Silent Hill 4, the room, the red handprints you see in certain areas aren't random texture dressing. They work like a progress and warning counter for Walter's murders. As the story advances, more prints appear, usually in places you backtrack through, so the apartment hub and nearby spots feel like they're keeping score against you. The prints pair with other subtle systems. Hauntings ramp up, Eileen's injuries worsen, and Henry's safe place stops being safe. Players who sprint past details can beat the game without realizing those marks were forecasting the endgame, But if you're watching for them, the handprints become their own mini HUD, telling you the ritual is moving whether you're ready or not. It's a smart way to keep tension rising during the escort half without extra UI. Your world just stains itself, one step at a time. The apartment closet scare only happens on New Game Plus. One of Silent Hill 3's nastiest jump scares is missable. On Next Fear, New Game Plus, if you return to Heather's apartment and check the closet, you can trigger a sudden, loud scare that doesn't exist on a first run. It's short and simple, but it reprograms how you treat home areas in Silent Hill. After that, players stop trusting the safe spaces they thought they understood. The gag also shows how Team Silent used replays to keep veterans off balance. The world isn't just harder, it's different. By hiding a unique scare behind New Game Plus, SH3 rewards curiosity and reminds you that this series loves to mess with expectations. Even speedrunners and longtime fans still flinch when it hits, because the setup feels calm and domestic right up to the split second where it doesn't. SH2's prison has real-world roots. Toluca Prison in Silent Hill 2 is loosely modeled after old Pennsylvania prisons, especially Eastern State Penitentiary. The long corridors, open cells, and panopticon-style layouts reflect real 19th century designs meant for surveillance and isolation. Team Silent borrowed this structure to sell the idea that James was walking through a system built for punishment as much as containment. Heather's closet scene can kill you. In Silent Hill 3, if you linger too long in the mirror room with Heather's reflection rotting, you'll eventually die without warning. The screen turns fully corrupted. Heather clutches her head, and the game cuts to black. It's not a combat death, but a psychological one. Most players never let it run long enough to see. SH4's apartment window. Peepers. Henry's apartment in Silent Hill 4 has a subtle scare. Sometimes, if you look out the window at the right moment, you'll see figures standing still in the distance. They don't move or interact, they just watch. It's a tiny detail that makes you realize the hauntings aren't limited to inside the room. The world outside is sick, too. The pier rope detail. At Toluca Lake, James uses a rope to reach areas you couldn't earlier. The item seems mundane, but it's a quiet callback to nautical rescue gear around the lake and an echo of returning to the water. SH2 loves props that double as symbols. The rope is both progress and foreshadowing, depending on which ending you're drifting toward. SH4's peephole has unique events. Henry's peephole isn't just for a few cutscenes. Across chapters, you can catch one-off moments, neighbors arguing, Walter's presence hinted by footsteps, Eileen's condition changing. Miss them, and they're gone. The peephole makes you a passive witness, which matches SH4's theme. You're trapped, watching life happen inches away, unable to fix it. Radio static as level design. The radio static in SH1 doubles as a directional hint. It ramps as enemies approach, but because it's louder in tight spaces and quieter in open streets, it subconsciously shepherds you along safer paths. Early survival horror didn't have modern waypoint systems. Silent Hill used sound to guide you without breaking immersion. Silent Hill 2's Invisible Prisoner. In Toluca Prison, you can find a cell with chains, food trays, and noises, yet there's no visible prisoner. Players hear rattling and coughing, but nothing's there. The detail suggests Silent Hill is showing James suffering that matches his guilt, even when no enemy spawns. SH3's roller coaster foreshadowing. The opening dream sequence ends with Heather dying on the roller coaster tracks. Later, when you return to the amusement park in the real world, you encounter that same coaster again. This time, you can stop it. It's the game showing Heather literally escaping her nightmare on replay. SH4's twin victims design. The twin victims in the room, two small heads on one tall body, come straight from Walter's backstory. They represent murdered children, frozen at the age of their deaths, and their long arms suggest both protection and attack. It's one of SH4's most literal monster to memory connections. The lighthouse in SH1 and SH3. The lighthouse first appears as a ritual site in SH1, but it reappears in SH3 with new meaning. Its presence links the cult's plans across generations, showing how places in Silent Hill don't reset, they carry forward their scars. For fans, it's a landmark that anchors the town's shifting dream logic. Weish 2's mannequin room works so well. The famous mannequin jump scare, legs twitching as Pyramid Head steps from the shadows, happens in a small, normal bedroom. There's no build-up, no puzzle, just sudden intrusion. Its power is in its banality, a regular space turned instantly unsafe, teaching you nowhere in Silent Hill is neutral. SH3's Fortune Teller Prophecy. In the amusement park, Heather can visit a fortune teller's booth. The reading warns her about blood and danger, essentially predicting her path. It's a minor stop, but it adds to Silent Hill's tradition of NPCs and props quietly telling you what you're walking into. The boat rowing secret, SH2. During the lake crossing, if you row in a perfectly straight line, you can unlock an achievement in later ports. Originally, though, it was just a hidden scoring metric that contributed to your ranking. It's one of those strange details players only discover when replaying obsessively. SH4's Wall Men Ambush. The Wall Men in Silent Hill 4 are first shown frozen in place, part of the environment. But once you've gotten used to them being background, the game has them suddenly strike. The scare works because it trains you to ignore them, then punishes you for it. SH1's UFO theme becomes tradition. What started as a one-off joke ending in Silent Hill, one became a running gag across the series. Every main entry through SH4 has some form of UFO cameo, cementing aliens as Silent Hill's unofficial second mascot, alongside Robbie the Rabbit. Pyramid Head's first kill isn't you. When Pyramid Head first appears in Silent Hill 2, he doesn't attack James. Instead, he kills the mannequins while James hides and watches. The point wasn't to stage a fight, it was to establish Pyramid Head as judge and executioner, sparing James until the time is right. The cat in the locker. In SH3's Hilltop Center, you hear furious scratching inside a locker. When you open it, a cat leaps out, only for the game to later subvert this. In another locker room, the same sound leads to nothing inside. It's a bait and switch scare, playing with your memory of the earlier jump. SH2's Painting of a Death Row Execution. In the Silent Hill Historical Society, there's a massive painting of an execution by hanging. Ito confirmed this was inspired by 19th century prison art, linking the game's themes of judgment and punishment. It sets a tone before you even descend into the labyrinth beneath. SH4's hole isn't always safe. At first, Henry's apartment hole works like a checkpoint. You crawl through it to return to safety, but later it becomes a source of dread as hauntings and attacks bleed into the room. By flipping the role of your safe space, SH4 kept players uneasy the entire back half of the game. SH1's Kaufman side quest alters the ending. Completing Dr. Kaufman's hidden side quest adds the Aglaophotis vial, letting you free Sybil during her boss fight. This not only saves her, but also shifts Harry's dialogue and slightly changes the tone of the ending. Silent Hill's branching paths often hide an optional exploration like this. SH3's mirror room death scene. If Heather stays too long in the mirror room, the corruption spreads until her reflection freezes and she collapses. This death isn't caused by monsters or combat, it's purely environmental, making it one of the most unsettling game over sequences in the series. SH2's Prisoners You Never See. In Toluca Prison, you hear footsteps, chains, and coughing behind cell doors, but most are completely empty when you look inside. These audio-only presences are never explained, reinforcing the idea that Silent Hill punishes through atmosphere as much as through monsters. SH3's extra Heather outfits. Beyond the standard unlockable costumes, Heather has several joke outfits tied to magazine codes and regional promotions. Some were only distributed in Japanese gaming magazines, making them obscure for Western fans. It's a reminder of how Silent Hill loved hiding secrets in real-world ephemera. SH4's Haunting Doll. The cursed doll in Henry's apartment is one of the nastiest hauntings. Place it near Eileen, and her condition worsens rapidly, risking a bad ending. It looks harmless at first, but ignoring it quietly sabotages your game. Many first-time players lose runs because they don't realize the doll's influence. SH1's Butterfly Room. In the Nowhere section of Silent Hill 1, there's a small, eerie room filled with pinned butterflies. It serves no mechanical purpose, but the imagery is deliberate, echoing Alessa's fixation on pain, fragility, and being trapped. It's a pure mood piece, one of Team Silent's environmental storytelling flourishes. SH2's Abstract Paintings. James encounters several abstract paintings in the Silent Hill Historical Society. Ito designed these himself, drawing inspiration from Francis Bacon's unsettling work. The choice blurs the line between real-world horror art and in-game fiction, deepening the sense that Silent Hill is a curated museum of trauma. SH3's Princess Heart costume. One of Heather's unlockable outfits is the Princess Heart Magical Girl costume. Wearing it lets her fire the Heather Beam, a sparkly energy attack that trivializes enemies. It's a goofy reward for replaying, but also a rare case of Silent Hill blending parody directly into gameplay. SH2's Prison Abstract Daddy Cells. In Toluca Prison, some of the cell graffiti directly references Abstract Daddy's imagery, sketches of beds, crude shapes of figures pressed together. These are easy to miss, but they foreshadow Angela's upcoming boss fight, tying her trauma into the environment before she even appears again. As H4's Hole Expansion. The hole in Henry's bathroom starts as a small, jagged wound in the wall. As the game progresses, it grows larger with each return until it's wide enough to swallow him whole. This creeping expansion visually tracks the story's escalation, Silent Hill eating its way into his safe space. SH1's hidden Konami references. Posters and shop fronts in Silent Hill 1 includes subtle nods to other Konami properties, including names resembling Gradius and Castlevania characters. Most players sprint past these textures, but they ground the town as a real place where pop culture references exist just like in ours. SH2's creepy, soundless room. There's a section in Silent Hill 2 where the audio almost completely drops out. No static, no monster noises, just James's footsteps. The silence makes players paranoid, expecting an ambush. It's a design trick. Horror doesn't need constant sound. Sometimes silence is scarier than any growl. Misty Day, Remains of the Judgment, SH2. The famous painting in the Historical Society, figures judging a victim in fog, acts like a mission statement for Pyramid Head. It foreshadows an executioner born from guilt and punishment, setting up James's arc long before the reveal. The title even frames Silent Hill's law. Judgment comes from the misty day. How to get SH3's possessed ending. Silent Hill 3 tracks. Hidden points for violence and damage taken. Lots of enemy kills, taking heavy damage, and using many healing items push you toward possessed. It's not about dialogue choices, it's about how recklessly you survive. Players who fight everything often land this darker finale by accident. Eileen's condition shows on her model, SH4. In the room, Eileen visually deteriorates, limping worsens, blood on clothing spreads, and her voice lines change as her condition declines. This isn't just flavor, her state influences the ending, and her walking speed in the finale signals how bad things are. Holy candles and careful play slow the slide. PT's photo fragments puzzle. You can assemble the torn portrait in PT by zooming on tiny photo fragments hidden around the loop walls, ceiling corners. The menu press X screen even. Completing it is one step toward the final phone call. It taught players to treat the hallway like a pixel hunt crime scene. Unlocking SH2's dog ending. On a new Game Plus, find the dog key and use it in the Lakeview Hotel observation room to trigger the legendary dog ending. The control room Sheba, the goofy theme song, and the "It was the dog all along" gag became a series tradition. Proof Silent Hill can be deadly serious and still wink at you to close the show.